Okay, so we're going to go out. I'm with Aristo. Thank you very much for helping, Aristo. And we're going to go out to measure a tree as best we can, and then I'm going to go through the process of transferring that information onto plan and section. So I've chosen the Lam Fa Ying, right? The Jacaranda mimosifolia, which is about here somewhere. Now the plan, I took the base plan, the campus base map A1, and then I took out I cropped the area that I want on the computer, and then enlarged it by 5 times, so a 500% enlargement to make it 1 to 200. And then printed it out at 1 to 200, cross-checked with the bar scale, always cross-checked with the bar scale, to make sure that this actually is at 1 to 200. So I've got my rough piece of paper, my rough plan here at 1 to 200. Now if you don't have a photocopier, then you might have to plot this by hand, right? But anyway, I'm not going to go through that process at the moment. Suffice to say that I've got my base area basically worked out here at 1 to 200. So now I'm going to go out and record the information that we need to mark the extent of the crown of the tree on plan, and then get the information that we need to make as accurate as possible a cross section of that tree. Okay. I've got the plan at 1 to 200, I've got my scale rule, I've got measuring tape and a writing implement, and in Aristo's hands is the telephone so that I can take photographs as we walk around. Thanks. So the first thing I'm going to do is locate the trunk of the tree. And in this case, this is relatively easy because on the plan I can see that this wall here is this line, and this line here is this wall along here. So I can just quite easily measure to the base of the tree to the wall, which is 1.5 meters. Okay, so the trunk is 1.5 meters along that way, and let's just put it in line here. About 1.2 meters from this line. Okay, so 1.2 meters. I'm not bothering to measure it at the moment, I'm just taking notes. Okay, so the tree trunk is about here, right? And then I've also got these steel supports. Right, this one's dead in line with the tree here, like this, and then that one's right in the corner here, and then there's another one over here that I can see is almost exactly in line with that wall there. So so those are the locations of the steel supports for this tree. So I've got the trunk located. I want to measure the actual size of the trunk, the width. I'm going to climb in and just get the girth of this tree if I can. If my arms are long enough. So the girth is 1.6 meters approximately. so 1.6 metres. Remember to be careful when you let this back in, because it shoots in, slice your fingers. So, circumference is 1.6 metres approximately. That means I can work out, of course, what the diameter is just by very quick calculation later when I get into somewhere comfortable. Next thing I'm going to do is to work out where is the extent of the crown of the tree. Now I'm going to have to do this to some extent by eye and by simply looking straight up, or what I instinctively believe to be straight up. It should be reasonably accurate because I can walk around the town without falling over. And so I look straight up, and in fact there is no part of the crown of this particular tree that is right directly above me. There's the crown of the adjacent tree is actually coming out to where I'm standing here, but not this particular tree. For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to just concentrate on this one tree. Okay, so I'm just underneath the extent of the crown here. So on the drawing, I'm right in this corner here. So amazingly, right, bizarrely, the extent of the crown is somewhere around here. Okay, so let's walk over here and see how far it comes this way. The outer extent of the crown here is pretty well in line with this top step here. So that's about as far as it comes here. Let's have a look over here. Just when that curved retaining wall comes out, which is just about here. Yeah. So this really weird tree. And let's have a look now. So now I'm standing more or less just below the extent of the crown here, which is circular wall. About, I'm standing here at the moment, and so the crown of the tree extends about here, and then let's have a look this way. There's one branch sticking out to this point, which is nearly in line with this little wall here, which is the next sitting, which is next to this sitting area here. So I can see where that ramp comes out there. It's just below where I'm standing. So let's go have a look over here. Where am I standing now? Good question. Let's get this the right way around. Wiggle, and about here. Two steps up from here. 1, 2. So the crown, the actual extent of the crown is something that's the sort of extent of the crown. Remember, that's the actual trunk is over here. Right? So when we draw it in plan, we're going to have to take that into account. Now, what I want to do now is to take some photographs looking up into the crown, so that I can use those in theory to trace off the actual branch structure. Because when you look up at this tree, you can see quite clearly that the crown is not a clear line like this. That's not how it's grown. So we'll take some photographs from probably about, I reckon what I'll do is I'll stand opposite this corner in this position here and take some photographs up into the crown to see if I can get a kind of upward view into the crown. I can then, at least, it won't be dead accurate, but at least I can trace off then the approximate branch structure. So I've taken 3 photographs, one facing that direction, north, looking up, one facing that way, looking up, and then one facing back towards the shore buildings, looking up. And at the moment, I'm just going to note down 1, 2, 3. So those are my upright photos. I can remember which one is which. Right, this is the first one, the second one, the third one. Okay. So what we're going to do now, I've got enough information, I think, to sort of plot out the crown of this tree. What I'm going to do now, I need to work out how high it is, and to get some side views of the tree, if I can, in order to construct the sections. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go as far away from the tree over here as we possibly can, which is about this location. I want to get a photo of the tree from there, right? And I want to get a picture. I'm going to get a picture looking this way, and then we can get up onto the bridge right up here between Noel's building and the library, and we can get a picture looking across towards the tree that way. Then we're going to go into the staircase, which is here inside Noel's building, and work out the highest point of the tree. And we can work out the levels there because we've got the ground levels, and we can work out the height of the building at whichever floor is opposite the highest point of the tree. Okay, so I'm now on the bridge between the Noel's building and the library block, and because here I can get exactly in line with this, the edge of this planting area, the top of the Sunny Upstairs steps. So I can get a photograph of the tree from this angle, right? From this point here. And that's going to be photograph number 7, which we will take now. Now this is at a different angle from where I'm going to draw my section line, but it still helps me to get a side view of the tree, so that at least I know the character of the way that this tree branches. So we'll get that picture now, and then we'll take another one in a minute. The level of this bridge, I want to know what level I just took that photograph from. So it's we know that's the 5th floor, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 steps. So that is at level 5th floor plus 11 steps plus about a metre, because I have to bend down to take the photograph. So plus 1 metre, just in case I want that information later. We are at this staircase here. The staircase in the corner of Noel's building, the south west corner of Noel's building. And I can get a shot horizontally to exactly the height, the tallest point, the highest point of the tree. So we're in between, we're on the landing between the 6th floor and the 7th floor, right? So I'm taking picture number 8 is between the 6th floor and 7th floor, right? And then if I bend down here, I can see that I'm just in line, just about horizontally in line. My eye level is horizontally in line with the top the top of that tree. In fact, it's a little bit lower down. Right, so I reckon the top of the tree we're looking at is just about slightly higher than the level of this floor. So that's the landing. Okay, and then just because we're here, we'll get a photograph through there, which is closer to a useful angle. And it's also useful because I can see the branch structure against the dark buildings behind. So I'm just collecting as much information as I can. Some of it I will use directly, some of it maybe not. Some of it I have to use just for background information. So now I've come back to my office and I've printed out the pictures, photos one, the big photos. So we've got photo 1 here, and 2 and 3. These are all photos that I took standing under the tree, looking straight up into the canopy. Right. So they all actually end up being pretty well the same, which is good because that means that I was actually looking straight up. So I took photo number 1, and because I'm looking up in this photo, but in plan I'm looking down. So I need to flip the picture because this picture is looking up into the canopy, but the plan I'm looking down. So this is the same photo, photo 1, flipped on the computer. Here's the plan with the Sun Yat-sen steps here. Here's Run Run Shaw building. Here's Knowles building. And we can see here on this photograph the same. The Run Run Shaw building, and there's Knowles building over here. So this is standing in this location looking straight up. All right. Then what I did was, as you saw on the site, I marked roughly how far the tree canopy spreads and the location of the trunk of the tree right here. Now what I did here was I took this picture and I reduced it to 25%, right, of its original size, right down, so that I can actually use this. I can reduce this right down, and I can fiddle around here, and that will help me to get at least the right kind of character for the branch structure for the tree, right? So in a way I'm cheating. I'm actually taking photographs. Now in some trees you might need to get several pictures like this and kind of stick them together in a kind of a collage to try and get the branch structure, but I just wanted to show you the principle of the thing here, right? So then what I did, then I overlaid with some tracing paper onto that photo, right? I then took the dimensions that I measured on site and plotted them more accurately on the drawing here, right? So I've used my information from site for the overall extent of the crown. I've used the photograph as a guide to the character of the branch structure for this particular tree, and then I plotted this here. Now the girth of the tree, the circumference of the trunk is 1.6 meters, so the diameter must be 1.6 divided by pi, right, which turns out to be just over 500 millimeters. So I've measured the trunk at 500 millimeters here. Then I'm using the base, which you remember I enlarged the base by 5 times, so it's 1 to 200, and I've gone out on site and I've plotted out roughly the layout of the tree, and then I'm using photographs to actually try and get the character of the tree. So, and then I'm using, a thick line to show the edge of the building and very, very light lines to show the ground level, right? And then you can see that the foliage is not dense at all. I mean, it's hardly got any foliage on it at all, this tree, right? So So I'm not going to draw a great big circle. You know, it's not like a little trunk with a circle, and the crown is leaning right over. So in plan, the branches and the trunk come out horizontally, like this. So this actually looks like a side view of a tree, but in fact this is the plan view of the tree. So and then you can just use a bit of dotting just to show the very sparse foliage that's on this tree here and there, and the character of the branching like this, so that, and then for the undergrowth I'm using very light dotting to show the undergrowth. I mean, you can use other techniques, but this is just one that I find is easier. And then you can use a pencil just to give that a little bit more weight, so that we can see that this is so just to give the impression, just to lift up the crown a little bit of the tree. Okay, so that's the plan of that particular tree at 1 to 200. And now I'm going to move on in a minute, and I'm going to construct the section. And I've got my other information here. I've got photograph number 6, which was taken from over here with me standing next to it, and I can then calculate how high that tree is up to this point here. And then we've got a photograph of the tree from the bridge near the 5th floor, looking out, just for information. And then this is the shot from whichever floor it was. Which floor was it? Between the 6th floor and the 7th floor. That's right, the landing between the 6th floor and 7th floor, looking out just in line with the top of the crown of this tree. Right. So I can see the top of the crown of this tree is at 1, 2, 3, 3.5 floors above this paved level. So 3.5 floors will be 3 meters per floor, will be 10.5 meters, right, to the top of the tree from that paved area. Anyway, I'm then going to get this information together and produce a 1 to 50 sectional view of this tree, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes with that. Great. Okay, so if you have a look here, the plan that I just showed you in the last video, what I'm doing now is I'm transferring that into a section, and the section's at 1 to 50. So just to make my life easier, I'm using the cutting board because it's got it's got a grid on it, which helps a lot. Or you can just get some graph paper and stick them together. If you don't have A2 or A1 paper, then never mind, just use A3 pieces. I've just stuck these together with magic tape. That's why it's called magic tape. And here I've plotted in, the first thing I've done, right, is put in the contours, the levels, right? So I know that this is 91.3, this paved area here is at 91.3. So but the cut line, you can see I've drawn my cut line here, right, through the tree, through the trunk of the tree from here to here, for the purposes of this demonstration. So this is the building line, right? This is the level at 91.3 here, so this is 91.3, right? And then there's a curb here, and then a planting area. So there's some ground cover and shrubs. I'm not worrying too much about that because that's pretty easy. The shrubs and the ground cover are quite easy to draw in. Then I've simply measured that distance, plotted it at 1 to 50. So, you know, this here corresponds to this small retaining wall that I climbed over in the previous video to measure the girth of the tree. And then this is the ramp here. The ground, you know, kind of slopes down slightly here. I didn't measure exactly what that level is, but I made a kind of educated guess because there's a slight ramp down here. Now, I'm not, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not marking in all of the different steps and everything, although it's quite easy to calculate that because you've got a level here and a level here, and you've got a certain number of steps, and you can calculate, you know, you can measure the height of the risers for the steps. Remember that the treads of the steps are also sloping a little bit, right? So all of these steps slope a bit, but anyway, that's quite easy to calculate, to work out, so I'm not bothering with that too much at the moment. So what I've done is I've located the trunk of the tree, right? Remember, it's 1.5 meters from this wall, so I measured 1.5 meters. We know the girth of the tree, which is 500 at 1 to 50. Ta-da! There it is. Okay. So how am I going to draw the tree? I know roughly. How tall is it? Good question. Photo 6, where we used the Gavin measurement, right, to get the tree height. The tree works out at 6 gavins, right, and a gavin is 1.85 meters, so it works out at 11 meters tall. Here's another way of judging the height of the building. The top of the tree, the very crown of this tree, right, is level with this point, right, and I worked out, you know, I know which level on Noel's building that is, so I could calculate the level that I was by looking at Noel's building, but it's actually easier to look at the Run Shaw building. We've got the ground floor, first floor, second floor, third, fourth here. So the top of the ground floor must be 3 meters, the next one at 6 meters, the next one at 9 meters, and then the top of the tree, just kind of the little wisps of the top of the tree come out somewhere halfway above that. So roughly 10.5 meters. So, you know, that's not too far out. It's somewhere between 10.5 meters and 11 meters. So I've decided that it's 10.75 meters. So that's 10.75 meters right here above this level. And I know from the plan that the tree leans out, right? It works out at about 11 meters. Right? It leans out 11 meters from the trunk out to about here. Right? So then I measured that out at 1 to 50, 11 meters to here. So the tree fits in here. Then what I've done, right, is, I mean, I've already photographed the tree. I flipped this photograph. So I flipped this photograph and made sure it's roughly the right size to fit in there. So we can slip in this underneath here, right? There we go, look. The top of the branches are roughly where they should be. I'm missing a little bit of the crown here, but at least this, and just to confirm everything, the trunk is the width that I actually measured it, right? So I can start drawing in, right, this the actual shape of this tree as it really is, right? Now I know this is slightly the wrong angle, but it's the best I can do. You know, I mean, it's not going to be perfect, and nobody's going to be able to check whether it's perfect or not. But this is, you know, I know that this is basically correct. It's not. It's never going to be perfect, but we are. Here we go, and I can actually get. I can get this, you know, pretty well, exactly right. So that you really are drawing the tree as it actually is. Okay. Now I'm doing it extremely roughly, you know, because I'm trying not to run a huge long video. But anyway, this shows you the principle of the thing, right? And I know that these kind of flop out here, right? I should actually have taken another picture, and then I could have combined the pictures, you know, merged the pictures on the computer, right? Which would have saved me a bit of bother. But basically, that's what I've got it, right? And then I can, you know, I can then start to fit in a little bit of the foliage here. Essentially, I've got my tree, right? And then, you know, it's up to me to, you know, I can decide what kind of graphics I want to use in order to, you know, bring that tree out. That's my section. So you can, that's the principle of the thing. That's how you can basically get your tree about right. And ta-da! There we are. Okay. So I'm not going to waste, you know, spend a lot of time working up on the graphics on this at all. But that's the section, and that is really the way that the tree is. That actually is like that. And if I wanted to, I could trace off a Gavin or anybody else, also at scale on here, which gives the viewer, you know, a good idea of what, you know, what's that, 1.7. Yeah, I mean people are, so, you know, this is somebody not quite as tall as me, okay, standing here next to the tree. So you can stick in a few people like this. That gives you a real impression of the actual size of these trees. Okay, so so yeah, that's the process. What you're doing is much more complicated. I've chosen a pretty simple tree, just one tree by itself. You're looking at a much more complex mosaic of trees, all mixed up together. So it's a lot more complicated for you. But I hope that this shows a simple principle where you can at least get the general dimensions correct. Right? Make sure that you know, because sometimes people do this kind of assignment and you get trunks of trees about 1.5 meters thick. It's just not true. So get as close as you can to the reality that is actually there. And look at that, the whole crown is way over. That's why there are those steel structures, to stop it from falling over, because it's about to fall over. Might not be there in 5 years. Okay, thanks guys. Okay, so as I explained in the last video, tracing is quite an important part. I think it's a very useful technique for carrying out this assignment. So, but I just want to show you a couple of you might think these are very silly, but they can help out in emergencies, right? If you don't have a photocopier, you don't have access to any way of enlarging or reducing things, then these little tricks might help. I mean, you can you can use tracing paper direct onto the screen of the computer, for example, right? Now this is of course this is not normal, normal behaviour, but there you go. You can turn the brightness up on the monitor, right? And then you can do your then you can adjust the size of the thing. This is one way of achieving the same outcome. I'm not going to spend time drawing the whole thing, but you can see the principle. This is, and then I'll show you in another video how to splice these together. You may end up with several of these, and then you can splice them together onto the larger drawing. Right? Another light table alternative, right, is called a window, and it's even better if we turn the lights out. Risto, could you possibly turn the lights out? Great. You may think these are rather ridiculous, but when the technology breaks down, then, which is probably not an if, but a when, make sure that the window's shut. Again, the same thing, right? You can use this technique to trace off, to trace off the tree again. So quite surprisingly very simple but useful emergency techniques, right, that you can use. Well, welcome to this week's exciting edition of landscape representation today, and we're going to splice something. So this is a technique that you can use if you make a mistake. Right? You can't just talk to this thing. So supposing, for example, I'm drawing, and I draw a potato or a stone or whatever it is, right? And I put a smiley face on it. And then I decide, oh no, I didn't want it to be happy, right? I wanted it to be a sad one. Right? Okay, so crisis, this ink, I can't do anything about it. So what you do is you need a cutting board, another piece of paper exactly the same, right, as this. You need the steel rule and a scalpel. So what you do is what we're going to do is put a piece of paper underneath here and cut out both pieces at once. Right? So we create an identical second piece of paper that can then be stuck in. Oh, you need magic tape. Right. Of course, you don't need this huge, great piece, so you just cut out a piece that is big enough for the job. And then you'll see why it's called magic tape. It's completely magic. So stick that down first so it absolutely cannot move. And then you put your mistake area over the top. Make sure that you've got it. Make sure there's no bits, little corner bits missing. And then we do the same thing with this. So then it's probably easier to, this technique will leave obviously a tiny line between the two bits of paper when it's stuck together again. But so you can kind of try to cut along. You can try and hide the cut. But it doesn't have to be, you can do it. So we're cutting through both pieces at the same time. Where have I got to? Oh, yes. lift that out. That's the mistake. And we've got another piece, right? Exactly the same size in theory. And we take this up. Ay. I haven't got any fingernails. It's really magic. So we have exactly the same. And then you simply position that. You turn it over, right, the other way up. Put that in, and it should fit. Should fit perfectly, almost perfectly. Of course, if you're cutting off a much bigger area, then you simply just have